Hey everyone, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and this is Tales of a Midlist Author. And contrary to popular belief, once again, I am not dead. Apologize for the long delay since the last episode. But you know, as I've said, sometimes I get busy with the writing. I have to concentrate on that. Um, and I have been pretty busy. I'll also offer this. It's not entirely about being busy. Um, I needed to download a new video editor, and it took me a while to figure out how to use it. I'm pretty good with tech, but when it comes to video, I am a complete idiot, as you can probably tell by the massive production values I tend to put in, recording in my cluttered office, which. If you tuned in before, you probably realize it's not any less cluttered than it was before, and I don't think it's ever going to be any less cluttered. The family seems to like just putting stuff in here. Anyway, I wanted to one of the new and interesting projects I decided to undertake late last year, at the urging of a couple friends, was taking my Tome of Bill series and translating it into a comic book. Um, why a comic book? Well, it's a new medium. It's a medium that, and it's a visual one as opposed to written word, so it's a bit different. At the same time, unlike, say, movie or TV, which is going to require a huge budget, funding at least one issue of a comic book was relatively reasonable, and also, it wasn't so far out from writing a novel that that I was completely lost. So it's a doable medium for people who know how to who are writing novels, as opposed to jumping into something completely off the wall. And also, it's a way to branch out, and branching out to new markets and new IPs is it's part of this business. You adapt or die. We're in a very saturated market right now, and it's every little edge can help. But also, let's be honest. Seeing the characters come to life in this way, it's really cool. Now, I'm happy to say that Bill the Vampire #1. It is finished. It's out there. It's out there in limited distribution. I'm still filtering it out there. I'll talk about that. So this is more of kind of a noob's guide for how I did it, how I got it done, and how you could possibly do it. I guarantee there's the people who have been in the industry who know comics. They can probably come in here and tear this apart. This is. I'll just give the disclaimer. This is entirely from the perspective of somebody who loved to read comic books but had no idea how to get one from A to B or from A to Z. So if you're in my boat, this will help. If you know what you're doing in the industry, you can just disregard this as some dimwit who's just figuring it out as going along and probably is gonna completely be make a lot of mistakes. So let's talk about what goes into a comic book. Probably the first part, and this is where you the writer come in, is the script. In this case, the Tome of Bill is a complete series. So I already had the basics, the full story. That said, it's a novel. It's not a comic book. So the first thing I needed to do was figure out how to do that. Fortunately, as I said, I'm a lifelong comic reader, so I'm kind of used to the whole thought bubble and and captioning concept. As far as script wise, there's Google comic book samples. There's tons out there, and follow that format. You're doing it one page at a time, and then separating that page into multiple panels and explaining what's going on in those panels. If there's dialogue, if there's action, all of that. You're essentially creating a script for your artist to follow. Now, if you're excellent at drawing and you know all this stuff yourself, hey, that's great. Your budget's going to be pretty low. I'm not. I can't draw anything beyond stick figures. So after the script, while I was working on the script, the concept, we wanted to find an artist. Now, aside from the script, there's 4 parts that go into a comic book. Typically, there's the pencils, which is really just kind of a black and white sketch. There's the inks / colors. Okay, inks and colors, I guess, are the same. Three extra things. And then there's the lettering, and then the lettering is the thing that fills in your cover title, your word boxes, your word balloons, all of that stuff. you can find in some cases you need to find artists like who'll do that all separate. In other types you can you can mash people together. So, like sometimes the people will do the inks and the coloring for you. Sometimes they'll do all three. What you want to make sure that you do though is whoever you hire, you want to have a contract in place, a work for hire contract, because typically if they create something without a contract, they own the copyright, it's theirs, and they can just stomp on you. You want to make sure that you're that they're signing something that says, okay, you're creating this for me, I own it, you're taking your money and you're going away, unless you are doing a rev share or so. But you want to make sure you cover yourself legally. And there's plenty of sample contracts out there. And hell, if you ask me, I'll show you. I'll send you a sample of what I used. Also, you want to state very clearly what the expectation is. Do some research into into what's the resolution for comic size, how they're going to send it. In this case, I asked for 300 DPI at 11 by 17. Even though most comics are printed at 7 by 11, it allowed me to to work with that. And make sure that you spell out the deliverables very very carefully, whoever you hire. Budget wise, you can run the gamut. If you get somebody who's a beginner and maybe just go to DeviantArt or so, it can be relatively reasonable. I would say you want somebody who's experienced, maybe not a superstar. Superstars get pricey, but and also maybe somebody who has some experience in the comic book industry, because that will help a lot when it comes to formatting your margins and all of that, your bleed, all of that. If otherwise you wind up being like, hey, my comic book's done. No, it's not. I have to add in all of this stuff, to get it formatted. In my case, I'll tell you right now, the Build a Vampire comic issue 1 out of pocket cost roughly about $4,500. So if you're lucky to find a producer to front that cost, hey, that's great. But if you are looking to do this yourself, you can probably bring in a little bit under there. But I found that price was probably right around mid-range. So as I said, a little over $4,000 to bring this to fruition. And once I buy samples, so I have stock for for conventions, it'll probably be about $5,000. And that's kind of the number I'm looking to hit. If I can make that amount of sales back, then there'll be more issues. If not, well, hey, it was a nice thing to try. Or hopefully I can, with this one issue, I can find a established publisher who's willing to strike a deal and say, hey, I'll take that off your hands, and I'll pay you a royalty, and you can go away. Well, hopefully not go away. I mean, they're my characters, they're my stories, and I'd love to see not only all the novels out there in comic format, but also I'd like to see some original stories. That said, this is a 28-page comic book, and Build a Vampire is, well, kind of a 300+ page novel. The trick there was the first issue obviously does not cover the entire book. I went through it, logically found a cutoff point that made sense, and wrote the script from there. I didn't try to stuff 300+ pages of novel into 1/10 the size of comic. That would have really not probably been a great idea. So little thought there. All in all, it took about 3 months to produce. Again, your mileage may vary, but when all is said and done, I have high-res TIFF files waiting to go. So what did I do with those TIFF files? Well, I'm still figuring out the distribution part, but I figured I'd start with 4 potentials. Amazon Kindle, because you can download comics on the Kindle. Comixology, which is kind of the big name in digital comics, oddly enough, owned by Amazon. Print, I wanted it to be available in print on Amazon, so I went with CreateSpace. 7 by 10 comic size. CreateSpace doesn't really print comics, but it kind of comes out much. They print on hard cardstock, so you essentially get a graphic novel for a graphic novel feel for it, which actually is pretty nice. For my own personal stash / things I'm going to sell on my website or bring to conventions, I went with Kablam. They're a print-on-demand comic printer, and their proofs were really nice as well. If I had to choose between them, they're both nice, but I think I like Kablam's just a little bit more. So the thing is, all 4 of them require different formatting. So you're going to have to do a little research there. With Amazon, you're going to want to use Amazon's Kindle Comic Creator. It does the work for you, but it's a little bit buggy, and it does require a bit of work. It's not really plug and play. It probably took me the longest to format for Kindle Comic Creator, because trying to find the right sizes of that would fit on a Kindle, but also be able to allow you to blow up the text to read it on a small screen. That took a while. Comixology is easy. You're pretty much just creating a PDF from your files. Pretty much same thing, same deal with Kablam. Relatively simple. With CreateSpace, it was pretty close to doing the same thing, but I had to modify the pages so that the bleed area was a little bit larger, which all of the pages I got back used a full black bleed, so it was really just expanding that in Photoshop a little bit. So formatting did take a little bit of time. Up on Kindle within a couple days. CreateSpace was pretty quick. Kablam takes a bit longer to print, and Comixology, if you're an author and you've dealt with ACX for audiobooks, it's kind of similar in that you create an account, you send them the comic, you wait, they eventually get back to you and say, hey, we either like it or we don't like it. If they don't like it, that kind of sucks. If they do like it, which fortunately they did, like Bill, then they'll say, okay, we'll put it up on our website at some point, and then you wait, which is where I'm at right now. Hopefully by the time you see this, it will be up on Comixology, but right now it is up on Amazon. It's available for Kindle and is available as a purchase for print, and I'm looking possibly to expand that to some of the other online stores, maybe iBooks as well. At this point, I'll be perfectly honest, I am feeling my way along. I do want to get it out there at conventions. I think this is going to look really awesome on one of my tables. As for whether or not I will make my investment back, I have no idea. Hopefully I will update you in the future. So far it's doing okay. I mean, not setting the world on fire. The comic industry is a tough industry. If you think Kindle is tough, comic books easily is tough. But again, it's branching out. It's a new medium, and it's giving new life to your characters. And I think if your audience, some of your audience is going to be like, well, hey, that's not how I envision the characters. But I think a lot of them are going to look and be like, this is kind of neat. Seeing these characters brought to life in a way that's steps outside of the imagination. So this journey is ongoing with comics. So I will update at some point, but that's where I am right now. I do have a finished product. It is out there for sale, and I am super proud of it. That it's something new to have tried. So, whether it succeeds or fails, at the end of the day, nobody can take away from me the fact that, one of my bucket list items was to write comic books, and, it's not like you're being hired to write Spider-Man or so, but hey, I made my own. That has to count too. All right. My name is Rick Gualtieri. This is Tales of a Midlist Author. I hope to have more of these for you this year, especially now that I figured out this stupid video editor. And I'll talk to you soon.